Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. It is late. It is Sunday night, and I don't have any kids here. I don't have a parent. My husband's home graveyard, and I have been in deep. So first thing I'm going to do is let everybody know I'm on here real quick. Because I think everybody was waiting. So I gotta let everybody know I'm on here because y'all don't want to miss this. I tell you what, I have been, no lie, up here at my computer like this for I don't even know how long. And literally I thought I was gonna come on about I don't know, an hour ago. And the stuff that what I was putting together in my head to try to explain to you my blow up and the truth of education and the new world order. I just kept finding research that I had stuck away. So I'm here. So anyway, let me see real quick. And y'all, I'm not even lying to you. If I don't lose my mind, so I'm going to jump into it. So I spoke on Thursday about the UN, the UNESCO, Mahatma Gandhi Institute, and I spoke about the SDGs and SEL, which people are still somewhere lost in the fact that, and I'm not going to go back in time because between the shows that I did with Lisa Logan and Deb Philman and Sloan Rathmith and myself, is that if you can go on this channel and if you can find, yes, SEL is racist. It is transformative SEL taught through the lens of social justice. Yes, it is that. Yes, they are teaching mental health because if you don't know about, and I don't have time to find a picture of it for you, if you don't know about the MTSS or the VTSS here in Virginia, which is the multi-tiered system, structural system or whatever, it will look it up and it will tell you that every child, this is the VTSS, okay, all children are in one. Okay. That means all children are getting universal mental health without parental permission. Problem number 2. Okay. Racist. Yes. All children getting mental health by teachers. Counselors in Virginia don't even have the authority to do it. Okay. So that's 2 problems. The third problem, which is the one that I thought I can't get anybody's attention, it usually grabs them, is that there are 50 states because of pre-K, because of Head Start, that are all using CASEL SEL. You can go to the VDOESEL and you'll see the nice little CASEL, which I can't believe I don't have one plastered behind me. The nice little CASEL wheel broken up into 5 parts, look like this. Okay, the CASEL wheel, you'll see it everywhere. You can see it on the CDC site, but they've incorporated the whole child. Chance you got Gates and Chan Zuckerberg. So, okay. So imagine an entire nation. We won't even get, and then you've got the entire globe. So you have the entire nation, all 50 states. And because I got into an argument with some dimwit on Twitter about this, and she kept showing me, well, this is not CASEL. Well, this is not CASEL. No, CASEL would be the head of the snake, and then the curriculums that you have contracts for all have to be aligned to CASEL. All of the behavior screeners have to be aligned to CASEL. So just because it doesn't say CASEL on it, it has to align. Okay, and this is what I told the FTC, is it breaks every antitrust law. It breaks collusion. It breaks, I couldn't even go into it. And not to mention is that imagine having 5 competencies, which are morals, values, beliefs, taught to all children. Okay, that's not frightening. All children, one set of morals, values, and beliefs. This is all that you can understand that's wrong with social emotional learning, even if you still believe it's about bullying and don't understand what empathy really they're teaching children. Is imagine having, let's say, the 7 richest men in the world. I say men, but Emerson Collective, it was Steve Jobs' widow, so she counts. But the 7 or 8 richest people in the world, all teaching the same set of morals, values, and beliefs that they're lying to you about what they really are. All children getting the same morals and values and beliefs, not only in the nation, but across the world. That should scare everybody. Okay, so there's multiple problems. But SDGs became new to me because I never understood why what's the big deal about global warming in schools. And I was just never one of those, because believe it or not, I haven't been at it that long. And then I started with James Lindsay. Let's bring him back to Twitter. He's number 2 after Trump. I started like the sustainable goals. Like, what is all this? And how does it all relate? And unfortunately, there's like 5 of us here in the state of Virginia that understand beyond SEL bad. We can get people even there past CRT bad, kind of like Orange Man bad. Like, if you can get people up to understanding like world domination, new world order. So just real quick, when we talk about the new world order, how long have our presidents actually been having the words come out of their mouths? I don't think enough people actually understand how long the world, it's not like a concept like, oh, the new world order, like it's just like some mythical fantasy. How long has it actually been like they've been talking about it? A long time. My volume should be working. It's just being slow and building up the momentum. Now keep in mind in 88, 89, hold on.
This is an historic moment. We have in this past year made ending the long era of conflict and Cold War. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world of the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN standards.
Okay, so that's number 1. That's number 1. And keep in mind that in Charlottesville, if you don't know about the Charlottesville Summit with let's see, Mark Tucker and Bill Clinton in 1988, that's when they flipped the switch. Actually, it was flipped before that. If you've heard of A Nation at Risk, that was put out in 1983, which is the lie that created the need for the education reform. I encourage you to look up something called the Sandia Report, which was a study done prior. And because it said education's fine, we don't need all this report, they suppressed it. And so if you know anything about education reform, look up A Nation at Risk, which is what precipitated all of this. And then also look up something called the Sandia Report, which was suppressed and heavily. And now, you know, how old am I? 40 years later, they're coming out, and you can find the Sandia Report and what it actually said and what was actually and why it was suppressed. And I don't know if you guys know who Diane Ravitch is, but she's supposed to be this big educate everybody. And she's actually in slides that I've shown about Common Core and opting out. She's part of like Badass Teachers or whatever. And she writes a blog. And she's one of those people that went from like, you know, standardized testing bad. It's like all these people that went from fighting all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, SEL, it's like, where did these people go? Because typically this is stuff that the left would hate. Well, you toss in equity and, well, okay, we'll shut up about it. We don't care about it anymore. We got equity in there. Cool. So yeah, so look up the Sandio report that was suppressed from A Nation at Risk. And then, boom. Oh, got another one here. Hang on. Is that up or down? Okay, sorry. Here's another one. Billy boy.
In a world in which the economy of other countries is obviously troubled at the moment, and in which future events are not predictable, we know one thing for sure. If we pay down this debt and things are troubled beyond our borders, we'll do a lot better and interest rates will be a lot lower than they otherwise would have been. If things go well in the global economy because of our efforts and others, we will do even better than we otherwise would have done. And we know that the success of the American economy has reinforced the budget decisions made in 1993. We have got to keep this going. So I say, take care of Social Security, take care of Medicare, pay down the debt, keep the economy going. These things are the most important things we can do for our children in the 21st century. Still strong differences in our approach. We must resolve them in a way that benefit the American people. The Vice President used the word benefit Republicans, Independents, and Democrats alike. We have to do what's right for the country.
So this is where, yeah, so we've got Clinton talking about the New World Order. And so there, I mean, throughout history, we've got so many people talking about the New World Order. Like, this isn't just some like mythical thing that we it just magically like appeared, or one of those conspiracy theories that people just like using. Like, literally people talk about the New World Order. It's a thing. And then a great one, and I'm just gonna is this one. Did you know that Papa Joe was at the World Economic Forum?
With fracturing the liberal international order.
This is news to me.
We see it in Asia and the Middle East, where China and Iran would clearly prefer a world in which they have overwhelming sway in their regions.
Guys, if you have not figured this out, and I'm going to get to it briefly, the fact that our governor, and if you don't know everything you need to know about the World Economic Forum, and why him being in Davos in 2020, which I'll get to, or Carlyle's part in the SDGs, which is SEL, which is global domination. Okay. If you can't add, if you're doing fuzzy new math and not basic arithmetic to add 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 4 equals, okay. Like, I'm trying to be comical about this tonight because it is so dire, and it's so comical at this point to pull this stuff up and to hear what these people have to say.
I'll not mince words. This movement is principally led by Russia. Under President Putin, Russia is working with every tool available to them to, one, whittle away at the edges of the...
Okay, I don't have time to hear about him wants to know about Russia. I gotta get to the part I wanted to talk about. But if you didn't know that Papa Joe was in World Economic Forum, what year? I'll see what year.
False information campaigns.
2017.
Political agitation and democratic systems, strengthening illiberal factions and forces on both left and right to seek out and roll back the decades of progress from within our systems. We even saw it in this cyber intrusions against political parties and individuals in the United States of America, which our intelligence community, all 17, have determined with high confidence. I've been doing this for 46 years, seldom use the phrase high confidence. They were specifically motivated to influence the elections. But it's not only the United States, I need not tell you, that has been targeted. Europe has seen the same kind of attacks in the past. With many countries in Europe slated to hold elections this year, we should expect further attempts by Russia to meddle in the democratic process. It will occur again, I promise you. And again, the purpose is clear: to collapse the liberal international order. Simply put, Mr. Putin has a different vision of the future, one in which Russia is pursuing across the board. It seeks to return to the past to lay out our policy at Munich in 2009, February. When I addressed the conference, I said, and I quote, "We will not recognize any nation having a sphere of influence. It will remain our view that sovereign states have the right to make their own decisions."
I'm sorry. Did you catch that? Because do you know what he signed us into a couple months ago? Okay? Remember these words.
In our view, that sovereign states have the right to make their own decisions and to choose their own alliances. End of quote. That was our position. That is our position. That should be our position. That's been our position throughout the past 8 years. It's the position that has to continue to be championed in the years ahead.
Can somebody call Papa Joe for me and remind him of those words, that we are a sovereign nation and we operate alone? Okay, we don't sign onto UN 21. We don't sign to Agenda 21. We don't sign into the WA. No. Somebody call Papa Joe and remind him senile what he said in Davos in 2017 if he forgot. Okay. And then real quick, I don't know if you guys. So this is Shirley McCune. This is a 1989 video, so you'll have to excuse the fuzziness. This is at the 1989 Governors Conference. Okay. Now, Shirley McCune is from Kansas. And, okay. Listen to her words from 1989, please.
Society. One of those things is to conserve the past
Oh,
and to take the always had two tough things to do in society. One of those things is to produce new ideas and new information, and secondly, to produce human capital. Schools have always had two tough things to do in society. One of those things is to conserve the past and to take the knowledge of past generations and move it ahead so that children can know what has happened in the past and that we can conserve the advancements that our society has already made to a certain date. That's the conserving functions of schools, and in a way we do very well at that. We in fact provide more facts for our kids. We in fact help them to understand the past, and we deal with that fairly well. The other function.
I will say that when we did the Marxification and Education with James Lindsay, one of the things that he drove home, and if you didn't know, New Discourses has, I think, 2 or 3 of those episodes out. The 4th just came out if you have the membership, but you need to watch those. But he talks about is that the reason that societal collapse is what she talked about is the repetition, the repeatability, is that each generation teaches what previous generations, our civilization continues to exist the way that it is. And what they have done is this disruption that we're seeing and that nobody's grasping how absolutely detrimental it is because the repetition, what she just spoke about, the repeatability of us learning from the generations before us, is that these kids, and I have said it before, is that round 1, the kids that are in college who hate their parents and their parents don't know why. You've got the kids in high school that are protesting, that have had no discipline, no real grades. They will graduate and probably all become criminals because if their parents have not been involved, they have had nobody to hold for anything. Okay. You literally cannot beg to have your child disciplined in our schools. It's a setup if you can't see it. All of it will make sense if you see all of it as like, why can't my kid get punished? I tried to opt my kid in last year. Why is my 11-year-old still allowed to have 85 days to turn in an assignment? There's no accountability for everything. Can I opt her in for that? No. It is all a setup. And so what she's talking about here is the repetition, the repeatability. That is how a civilization sustains itself. In Eastern civilization, so when you've got the destruction of different, so Mao, Lukács, Gramsci, all of them, they had thousands of years of like rich history that they had to destroy. So they literally had to murder scholars, the priests and everything. We are so new that they can come in, wipe our monuments out, take our everything down, re-educate one generation. We're done. She just said that the one value of education is the repeatability, that you learn, and you also learn about history, real history, which is not being taught, okay, so that you don't repeat it, okay? That's why they don't want real history. They want, it literally says social studies skills is what the history standards say, not their history standards. So is that if they don't learn about history repeating itself, I know history, and I know history is repeating itself because I learned about Hitler and Gramsci and Lukács and Stalin and Mao, and I mean, but if they don't know, and they won't know that history is repeating itself. But here we already have one generation disrupted, and we are such a blip on the radar when it comes to time on this earth. The United States is. They don't have to come in and scholars, because our scholars have really been compromised for the last, 150 years, if not more. And so they don't have to come in and murder the pillars of our society that hold up our values of what America is, because they're doing it every day. And all they have to do is take out one generation of children, just one, and they're halfway through.
Of schools, which sounds paradoxical and yet in a sense is really not, is the fact that we have to prepare students not for today's society, but for a society that's 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road. And so we have to anticipate what the future is and then move back and figure out what it is we need to do today. That's called anticipatory socialization, or the social change function of schools. During the past 10 years, we've been going through...
I'm sorry, in 1989, did you say the anticipatory social change? Did I hear the word social change agent? I'm sorry, was that 1989? Yes.
Reform movement. And that reform movement began with the governors of the nations the nation, and basically what their concern was that they began to understand the very close relationship between economic development and human capital. And it may be easy to say, well, if it isn't broke, why fix it? Why should we try to deal with that? And unfortunately, what I would say to you is that while the system still continues to work for some parts of the population, it isn't going to work over the long run. And what has to happen, conferences like this and throughout other dialogues that go on in the state, is a commitment of understanding that what we have to be about is building a future. It is the future that motivates us. It's not what we're doing now. You have to understand the breadth of the task that's before us. You cannot begin to think about restructuring of education without understanding that our total society is in a crisis of restructuring. And you can't get away from it. You can't go into rural areas, you can't go into churches, you can't go into government, you can't go into business and hide from the fact that what we are facing is a total restructuring of the society. First of all, we have to understand that we're in a new economy. And Kansas has made some turnaround in its economy in a precarious situation in parts of the state. And I don't think you should rest on the fact that things will remain as they are, because they will not. If anything, we know the next 5 years will be the most chaotic of our lives. If you talk to businessmen today, the great majority of them understand the critical importance of human resource development. One of the things that is going to be a major challenge to America's citizens is the fact that increasingly our society is becoming older. What we begin to see is that 80% of the wealth in America today is held by people 50 and over. And of that particular group, that wealth is going to have to be invested in future generations. It's the fact that 30% of every district's children are physically, emotionally, or sexually abused. And so when we begin to look at a society that allows 30% of the children in this country to be abused, it seems to me we really have some questions to ask ourselves about the quality of adults that we have. Oftentimes people say things to me about, well, we're spending more on schools and we're getting less. And I disagree with that totally. We're spending more on schools, but what we're also doing is taking on more and more in schools. And that will be a trend that will continue. We're not only feeding kids at noon, we're feeding them in the morning. We, in fact, are providing more psychological services. We're providing special ed services. And more, the school is the hub or the center of human resource development services in the school. We have to have better people in this society. Not only...
Okay, so I have to move on. So that was 1989 at the National Governors, or the Governors Conference in 1989. He's already talking about we have to do everything. Children are getting abused. We have to take the kid. They're our children, is essentially what Shirley McCune. And all of these will be, they're saved on our YouTube must. Whenever I show stuff, I always try to save it. Everybody can go back and watch it themselves. So that leads me to good old Arnie. If you guys don't know about Arnie Duncan, you gotta. I'll do a whole Arnie Duncan, Andrew Rotherham, who's on our board of education here in Virginia. I'll do a good old. That would be like a 5-day episode. Literally, I have got so much microfiche on Andrew Rotherham. It's unbelievable. But so, and that'll bring us to good old Arnie. If you guys, that would be Obama's sec ed. So this is how Arnie, good old Arnie, what he believed for our children.
Big community centers. Our schools should be open 12, 13, 14 hours a day with a wide variety of after-school programming. Thankfully, in the vast majority of communities around the nation, our schools are actually safe havens. Very little violence happening in our schools. It's really happening, the vast majority is on the streets. If we could keep our kids they're longer. We think that makes a lot of sense. More vocational programs, more chances for folks to figure out what they're learning in school, how is that relevant to where they go the rest of their lives. And the one idea I threw out that wanted to sort of road test it with the kids do, I thought, this idea of public boarding schools. And that's a little bit of a different idea or a
They
controversial
want our
idea.
children.
The question is, do we have some children where there's not a mom, there's not a dad, there's not a grandma, there's just nobody home? And there's certain kids we should have 24/7 to really create a safe environment and give them a chance.
That is the craziest SHIT that I have ever heard in my life. Now, of course, there's the people that are like, well, yes, there are children that are getting abused. There are children that need more help. Well, guess what? The last first people that you want to hand them to is public education system. Okay, so this would be right before. So everybody bashes Bush for No Child Left Behind. And so this would be right before they swooped in, said they were changing No Child Left Behind, was so terrible. Black children are not standard. No child should take standardized tests. And all the unions were like, oh, Bush is such a terrible person. Oh, what? Every child succeeds. ESSA, it's wonderful. No, you don't. They got bought off to shut up about ESSA because that's how bad Obama was, period. I'm not even going to mix that message. Yeah, you can find AFT in New York City and Weingarten signing off on what they'll shut up about. But that's when they flipped the script on SEL, and that's when all of the insanity actually started to come into play. So I really wish that I could go into everything I want to go into because there's so much. But I want, which one do I want to do? All right, I'm going to do 2. I'm going to show y'all a couple of things. Stay with me. Usually I have like all like pretty slides. So if you guys don't know about this thing called Agenda 21, United Nations Sustainable Development, 1992, Agenda 21. It's not hard to find. You can look it up. I mean, there's so many things. You've got Goals 2030. You've got Goals 2000. I mean, do you know how many manuals? Oh, yeah. But I do believe it's let's see. Is where is it? Chapter 36. So excuse me, don't get dizzy while I scroll down to chapter 36. All right, somebody's writing me. Okay. I get distracted. All right, I gotta scroll down further. This is one of those documents that, and I really, a lot of these are, if you go to VAFCF.org, a lot of these are, we've put these like billions of UNESCO documents. You just got to read them. Okay, so this would be UN, this would be Agenda 21 from 1992. Let's see. Right here, 36.2. A, reorienting education towards sustainable development. This was 1992. Increasing public awareness. Promoting training. Okay. Education is critical to sustainable development and improving the capacity of people to address environment and developmental issues. While basic education provides underpinning for any environmental and education, the latter needs to be incorporated as an essential part of learning. both formal and non-learning educational, are indispensable in changing people's attitudes so that they have the capacity to address their sustainable developmental concerns. It is also critical for achieving values and attitudes, skills, and behavior consistent with sustainable development for the effective public participation in decision making. Okay, that's all I'm going to read from that portion. That would be 36 and Agenda 21. And then what I want to do is I want to jump back to what, if you missed what I was talking about from the Mahatma Gandhi social emotional, these porn people, block, porno, XX, idiots. But anyway, sorry. So this is where it gets crazy. I was talking about, this is a literal thing, y'all. You can look up, go, Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Development. I didn't make it up. Okay. And it's their newsletter they send out. It's called the Blue Dot, and it will blow your blue dotted brain. I'm not even lying to you. This is the one I actually read. The Virginia Board of Education. Okay. Literally talk, and I said this, dissonance and SDGs. Okay. And it goes, you can read the article. So dissonance is unpleasant. It's like cognitive dissonance we have, which is the disbelief. A lot of parents are going through it now, the disbelief of the way that the world is and the refusal to see it as it is. And so that's what they're talking about here. And so it talks about, hold on, where is it? So what they're talking about is, so where this applies is that, so children are being taught through social emotional learning, collective mindset. And so it is like the good of the world is more important than the good of yourself. That's what they're being taught with social emotional learning. And it's like, well, why are they being taught that? Why are they being taught collectivism? It's like empathy and bullying, and why children are taught not to have boundaries. Like children naturally have personal boundaries. You're sending them into a public school that's teaching them not to have that, because that makes them a bad person with no empathy, without, you want a child to stay away from you because they're stalking you on the playground. You should be a better friend. Oh, you don't have empathy because there's a boy in the girls' bathroom. You should empathize with that child. So you have to understand is that they are breaking down the identity of children, and then the Mahatma Gandhi Institute tells you right here why they are doing it. And they talk about how important it is to do it possible to get rid of the dissonance, so that when they are later in life, that what their parents are teaching them, that individual, they do not want children to be individual. And then it goes in crazy. It goes into the whole, I mean, I'm not going to read all this, but you should. I will actually post the link in here. You can the whole debacle yourself. But it goes in and it talks about why they have to do it as young as possible. Head Start, government preschool, all 50 states, SEL, done. Signed, sealed, delivered. And nobody has control, or the state has oversight, but it is literally, so the kids in Head Start, they're masked. They're still masked. If you want to work in a Head Start, you have to be vaccinated because the federal government is telling everybody in the 50 states what they can do in Head Start. So this is I mean, I'm not even empathy, mindfulness. These are all words that if you read these and your child's stuff, are coming off. So dissonance can be caused by beliefs, attitudes, values about oneself, others, or the environment. Thus, interventions to reduce dissonance are required to address the cognitive antecedents of emotion. Okay. Interventions they're talking about are social emotional learning. The cognitive antecedents of emotion. So they want to intervene with social emotional learning, the dissonance when they find out that the New World Order wants them to care about the good of the society over the value of themselves as an individual. That's collectivism. Okay. So the intensity of the emotional response, the cognitive regulation of the emotional response, combined through training of empathy, mindfulness, build skills. Okay. SEL education and the SDGs. Okay, so here recent experiences with SEL in school show promise in improving pro-social behavior. So the shirt that I wore, education, not experimentation. When in the world allowed something involving our children's mental health to be taught? And here the UNESCO admits it shows promise. So the next time that somebody tells you, well, it's evidence-based, I won't even get into what the actual meaning of evidence-based is. Tell them, say that I don't really want my child being something that you probably don't even know about that shows promise in improving pro-social behavior. Whose definition of pro-social behavior? First of all, but they admit it in schools shows promise. Why is it embedded? Why is it systemic in every embedded curriculum if all it does is show promise? We're advocating here for a whole brain approach. Whole child, look it up. Bad. Chan Zuckerberg. Whereby the focus shifts from purely building individual intelligence, hello, no more academics, to one where there is a balance of both intellectual and emotional intelligence. If you did not know that your EQ, your emotional quotient, soon be more important than your quotient, then you better look that up because that will be the reality soon. So right here is what I read at part of the article builds a case for how the United Nations, the UN Sustainable Development Goals can be achieved through what? Social emotional learning. A boom. The object is therefore towards building emotionally resilient individuals who are able to navigate the complex landscape of conflicting goals. Okay, what the world wants versus what they want, and dissonance to one of pro-social behavior that promotes human flourishing and the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Right there. SEL, education, and the SDGs. Right there. It's all here. Like, it baffles me the fact that people are still like, and so why is it bad again? And then let's talk about real quick. Blow your mind. The emotional 21st. If I hear one more, and this warning out to everybody running for Republican seats next year. If you don't remove even the people that I like 21st century skills from your platform on your website, you're going to earn a spot on my list. And it's not a spot you want to be in. If you don't know what you're talking about, don't put it under your education policy goals for your platform. So, got it? Okay. The good news is that research is increasingly demonstrating how social emotional learning interventions have had positive impacts on success in schools and subsequently even in wage earnings. Okay. That's what this is all about, Glenn Youngkin. So, but I really want to get to I'm going to show one more. Oh, no, we won't go there. I'll do this again tomorrow. Because we have to get to the UN's, the journey towards comprehensive sexual education and the international technical guidance on sexuality education. Yeah, the UN, the UNESCO is running everything. So not going to get there right now. Excuse me. With very scary one I want to show you. Sorry. Here it is. Oh, this one. The Blue Dot. 2017. So I lost my bonkers because remove three standards of learning, all of those people up there that were talking about critical thinking like they actually have a clue what they're talking about. But right, in inquiry learning, if you haven't looked at the 400 pages of the history standards of learning in Virginia from August, I think it was page 11, inquiry learning. Okay, right here, the top of this little chip, critical inquiry. They put it on a chip and call it rewiring the brain to be future ready. Integrating 21st century skills and education systems towards developing peaceful and sustainable societies. These people are lunatics. Okay. SDG 4.7. Critical inquiry, mindfulness, empathy, compassion. Okay. Because these people are literally lunatics. So I posted earlier, and I'm going to go because I started way too late. But what I want to go through tomorrow is this. Enhancing teaching and learning through educational data mining and learning analytics, an issue brief from the U.S. Department of Education in the year 2012. Okay. I'm going to show you a tidbit when I talk about each of our children, every child, and I say this and people look at me like I have three heads. I'm going to show you where they tell you, okay? Every child, what is all this data being collected for? The data is being collected, and I'm going to show you tomorrow. The data is being taken as a predictor of the child's academic skills, their behavioral concepts, and what they can do in the future. In 2012, they told us. So in your child's Chromebook, all of these surveys, these behavior screeners that I fought Chesterfield tooth and nail all summer long to get the DESA opt-out. And we have opt-outs up the butt on VAFCF.org to make sure your child is not getting this data taken on them. People are like, well, I don't care what data. You should, because your child's EQ, that behavior score, is literally directing your child's education. We have sat and watched. Children are not taking the same test. They can't give you the curriculum if you ask the teacher because the teacher doesn't have one. Algorithms and AI. So children are literally all getting separate education based on what the is telling them they're going to do in Glenn Youngkin and Amy Gadara's and what part of the labor workforce to recover the Virginia economy. This is not just us. I'm speaking straight from Virginia. But when you have people that are talking about this kind of thing, this is from the U.S. Department of Education in 2012. So if your child has a one device, Virginia is one of the only states that you can't even get a textbook. Can't even get a textbook. Not one. That they can't give you. They have written ways to not to deny, even though the Constitution of this state and federal PPRA, they have to give it to you. They will deny because they know that the Office of Civil Rights and Miguel Cardona is not going to do anything about it. But you force it until you force it, because they literally can't give it to you, because every child is getting taught something different. Every child is getting directed into whether they are an alpha or a beta or a gamma. By the time now that we've got Head Start and be like, woohoo, free pre, that idea. They're all going to be taking DECA P2, the Devereaux mental health, and they're going to have people evaluating their EQ, their behavior screener, based on whether they can make eye contact at 18 to 36 months, whether they smile when they see somebody they like, things that pediatricians do. And so by the time that these kids get to preschool or get to kindergarten or first grade, they're going to already have a lot in life determined. They're already going to have, based on whether they made eye contact or gurgled or crawled fast enough in government preschool, that they have sold to everybody like welfare and equity that's wonderful for children. I start to get really passionate now. And then by the time, and people look at me like, that's just, they wouldn't do that to children. What world do you think that they would not do to children at this point? So they're determining that, and I haven't even gotten to Klaus. This is the Great Reset. This is the Great Reset of our children. Okay, wrong guy. And so whatever Youngkin and Amy Gadara and whoever, because like I said, the World Economic Forum, the Virginia Chamber of Commerce, Altria, Genworth, all these people, HCA, they are determining what the 21st skills they need for the buildings. They need our children to learn so that they can go into them. They are literally discouraging going to college. In 6th grade last year, my daughter took an exploratory, and I pulled a career 9 weeks. And they're literally telling them it's pointless to go to college and waste the money because you probably won't even use it. They are literally discouraging children from going to college. Why do you think so many children are doing things like coming home and having, bad mathing college at young ages? Coming home and they're saying that they don't ever want to have children. That comes from all of this craziness about the United Nations. And every time a child is born, the earth groans. Yes, that came from the United Nations. Mother Earth groans every time a child is born. So you take everything literally that is taught in the Bible, sovereign nation, children are wonderful blessings, and you turn it upside down, and that's what's being taught. Boop, turn it upside down. It's a different it's not top-down education that I talk about all the time, but it's like if everything that you believe in your faith, and then upside down, and that's what's being taught. And so that's how they're destroying this generation of children. So there will no longer be, as James Lindsay talked about sanely, and what was her name? I'll pay. It's like I said, all the stuff has been saved under our with the Looney Tune in 1989 said is that the education is, and she called it a paradox herself, is to teach history so that people know, so that you can have the repetitive building on a positive society. And then she goes on to talk about the paradox and the need, and you can rewatch video when I'm done. And she talks the need in the next 40 years and how it's going to be different. And this is where James Lindsay, if you go back and go to New Discourses, he started to release pieces of the Marxification and education. I don't know if they're all labeled that actually. Back from we hosted that in August. And he talked about is that the United States is like a prime target because we don't have thousands of years of history like Eastern civilization. Western civilization is very new. And so when you building the repetitive cycle, because that's how societies and civilizations succeed and continue to thrive, is that you have the repetition, is that you have the generations learning from the generations, the respect of generations, and you learn it. And when you can break that in one generation, like I said, you can't come back from it. Once this generation is done and starts to take over America, who's going to circle back to teach their children how to recover America? Nobody. There's nobody. And so when I get the way I get, especially if you're watching from Virginia, it's because we are a decade behind the rest of the nation. And people are not catching up fast enough how bad this actually is. And so I'm kind of proud of myself because I cut it at an hour. And if I showed everything that I had to, so I will continue tomorrow. And tomorrow I'm going to jump into, and I'm going to show Glenn Youngkin in Davos, Switzerland in 2020. I'm going to then show the co-founder of in Davos talking specifically about the SDGs. I'm also going to show the global supervisor for the Bill and Melinda Gates Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in Davos at the World Economic Forum, talking about all of this madness and SDGs and education. And so the fact that our governor was at the World Economic Forum in 2020, right before he left, he quit. Okay, I don't ever want to hear again that he got fired or terminated from Carlyle. 100%. So it's right before. And let me see if I do really want to kind of show this video. And I really wish when I was campaigning for him, I actually had a clue what globalism was. I'm not gonna lie, because I didn't. It's people need to know, and it actually like shocks people. I mean, that Youngkin was in Davos at the World Economic Forum, speaking with China. The China-America relationship was basically what he focused on in Davos. He says a couple things.
Is that he looks at this from an engineering standpoint. The mechanical engineer from Rice University. We're going to go to logs. What does your duration of hold do? Yes. Even lower. What do you do given the wall of money John just described? You go from a 5-7-year hold out to a 12 or a 22. Health funds can hold forever, so we still are going to exit eventually. But we are holding longer. And I do think that one of the keys to holding longer is creating value on a compounded basis for a longer period of time. We're not quick flip artists, and that's the key. You can't buy low and sell high. What you have to do is have a view of what you can do with a project or a company, and then
take 5, 7, 8 years to get done. Do you have to go up the risk curve? I will say that to get the same returns that we used to get, you have to go up the risk curve. And I think is in today's world, returns are coming down. And where we used to underwrite things in excess of 20% returns, we're underwriting them in the high teens today for the same risk. Yeah, a different kind of model. So we'll see a business or a project that we have a particular expertise in, and we believe is good, but could become great.
You're not going to take the preferred yield,
And we're gonna own most of the time.
I gotta find.
And then we're gonna reasons why there has been a strong flow of capital into private capital and the returns. And the returns are expected to continue to be strong, premiums to what people can get over long asset classes. And so when we talk to folks, what we say is we're going to do our jobs, we're going to focus on creating value, and we expect the returns to premium returns.
Let's go Matthew right now. FV equals PV 1 plus R to the T. Okay. What's important here is IRR is coming down. Okay, we're going to look at the partial differential of the time function because he's going to go to logs right now. Logs, what does your duration of hold do? Given lower IRR, what is your duration of giving the wall of money John just described? Do you go from a 5, 7 year hold out to a 12 or 12?
Well, the good thing is we can do either. And I think the flexibility of the capital that's been raised today gives us the flexibility to hold for 5 years or hold longer if we need to.
Because of the chicks, what are you doing now? Are you guys becoming more sovereign wealth fund-like because of the deck of cards David Rubenstein handed you?
Well, the sovereign wealth funds can hold forever, so we still are going to exit eventually. I will say that to get the same returns that we used to get, you have to go up the risk curve. And with the companies, there's a modicum more of risk. And we believe that business is good, but
Not going to take the preferred yield.
and we're gonna own most of the time the equity. And then we're gonna work with the management team, and we're gonna do everything we can to try to grow and improve that.
I'm showing y'all this because I want you to see how intelligent.
Developing JFK's international terminals. Now that's an important project.
This ma-
Listening to this is now very, very happy.
You have to know how intelligent.
The show just stopped. Blow every break, folks. Go.
This is an incredibly exciting project for what it would be. Now, it's going to be a long-term project. We're hoping to get started this year. We're going to have a number of years of construction, and so get ready for some disruption. But the end product is going to be fabulous. And so we view that as an equity role to actually
Okay, I think this is what I wanted.
advance order and planning. So the supply chain vesting in the project. They're actually writing a check to invest in the project and are really excited about the project and the return.
We're going to run out of time. I want to go here. What do you learn best practice from Heathrow other than their killer taxes they charge you?
Well, I was going to advance order and planning. So the supply chain for materials and construction phasing is critical. And you have to do it today in advance.
Can you get it so I can get a luggage card at JFK? I don't have to pay $8.75.
People come on, Tom, mate.
So in our equity,
You're giving the unions an equity kicker here.
All right, this is it. Hold on.
I mean, what everybody agrees are good things.
partner with them. So in our equity,
You're giving the unions an equity kicker here.
equity is the unions are investing in the project. They're actually writing a check to invest in the project and are really excited about it.
This is how he got us.
We're going to run out of time. I want to go here. What have you learned best practice from Heathrow other than their taxes they charge?
Man, this whole thing is,
because interest rates are going to stay low and growth is going to be steady.
this is just like an
It's
interview
going to continue to stay high. So
that he did with Bloomberg while in Davos.
which means you better have conviction, and that conviction gets built around the quality of the teams. So we're blessed. I will say Carlyle, 33 years of building great talent and great teams. And so we have specialized teams, lots of folks in the background who help create value. And when we see something that we think we can make a real difference with, then we're
So I spoke to Mr. Rubenstein a little bit earlier when I said, it feels like it's easy
The
to raise
talent
capital right now.
talent pool.
most of the time you're going to pay the highest price to get in, which means you better have conviction. And the conviction gets built around the quality of the teams. So we're blessed. I will say, Carlyle.
I will say this as I close out is that I go back and
lots of folks in the
I watched that I was a part of a lot of them, his campaign videos. And the language is the same. our team's going to win. Like, it's very frightening. But this man is extremely intelligent. And so anybody who thinks that it's just a coincidence, or it's not that big a deal what he did or didn't do, say, is deluding themselves. I mean, there's really no other way that I can put it to you, is to say that this man has been in all of this and will not acknowledge social emotional learning, because on our website we have a jot form that thousands and thousands and thousands, I actually don't know, have sent. And if you don't know a lot about social emotional learning, I wrote this, probably one of the first things I wrote about social emotional learning, with the links. It will teach you the basics, like not any of this, but like the basics, and why his divisive ideologies means nothing as long as Castle transformative SEL stands, and crickets. And so he knows. Not doing anything about it. There's a reason he's not doing anything about it. Different day, different show. But I wanted you guys to know that there is a jot form if you wanted, and it goes to all the school boards, it goes to our legislators, it goes to everybody at the Department of Education, that we hate it, we don't want it. But I wanted to just show you guys a little bit about how extremely frightening this is. And then I want you to think about the fact that your child is getting a different education based on the 300 to 400 to 500 data points that are being collected on them. And their worth is being determined by the one-to-one personalized learning space, the computer that they're on, with their keystrokes or their click rate, or their face scans in places, or their Fitbit that they wear in, their chip, RF chip, that they're not warning you about RF radiation. They're not hardwiring schools. Different story, different day. That tracks your child from the bus to the house to everything that they do. How much monitoring of everything that your children do, and it's not to protect them. They don't have a threat assessment software and zero threat assessing. I don't know a single parent that's had Gaggle or GoGuardian or Securely contact them and say, oh, well, your son was looking up dirty words today. I don't know one parent who's been warned outside of special education here and there, that their child's behavior screener, sometimes called early warning assessment, early risk assessment, that would be DESA, Panorama, those things, Sabers, Collab, all those, has been told that your child is functioning below level at, I don't know, social awareness, because none of it matters. They're not actually teaching. And this is my message to teachers, is that this is the truth. If you are doing it for children, this is your wake up call. It's not. Now that you know, you're destroying children. A lot of people know, and they don't care. I can't help them. But the ones that think it's okay and it's about bullying and it's about children getting along better, here's the resources. This YouTube channel has the resources. This is what I do and I talk about all day long, because it is absolutely the worst thing going on in education right now. And if you're legislators, senators, people that you know running for school board do not know how bad this is, just know that your child is being destroyed because it is systemic. It is in every single curriculum. It is embedded. Every time you put your child on that bus or you drop them off in public schools, everywhere, this is going on. I don't know what else to say. The corruption, absolute mind-blowing expansion of how long it's been going on is a different story for a different day. But if you one way or the other, fill out every opt-out you can, because they're on our website. You can opt your child out of this. You can stick your foot up your principal's ass and make them, because guys, is that there's this law, these creepy laws, that they can't grade children on non-skills. So when you opt your child out, they're not going to get targeted. They're not going to get singled out, because all the teacher's going to do is say, I can't give that child that assignment that they can't get a grade on anyway. And it's really as easy as that. So it is, I hope at this point that Virginia is catching on somewhat how dirty what this is, and that it's in our state and our state's connection to it. And I hope that people stop drinking the Youngkin Kool-Aid, because we don't have 3 years to elect another governor. We don't have 3 years. Everybody's like, we'll wait and we'll elect somebody else. And, we don't have that time. We have to make action happen however we can make it happen. Because in 3 years, when I was talking about that repetitive, it'll be destroyed. It'll be gone. We don't have 3 years to wait for another governor. So, we're 11 minutes over. I was trying to keep that at an hour. So tomorrow we will continue with the personalized devices that are teaching your child something different than what the child sitting next to them is, based on their EQ or based on the 100 points of data that you they told you that you couldn't opt out of. If you ask them when you can, that you didn't opt your child out of the DESA screener because you didn't care, or if you did, awesome, because now they're trying to figure out different ways to direct your children into their workforce. And so, guys, I'm not blaming parents at all. You have got to find the time to become in-depth, involved in your child's education. You have to. Even if it's staying up 3 hours past your bedtime to go through your cell phone, through your Schoolology or Canvas app to find out what that's how I found out everything that I've shown people. The madness that was being taught to my 11-year-old, I got it through the portal. Get a parent portal. Do one thing tomorrow. Get a parent portal. And if they don't tell you how, call and ask them. And then start going through your child's curriculum. Gym class is where you want to start. Anything called life skills. Gym class is, if you read the Virginia PE standards of learning, they're essentially social emotional learning. You can read it, it's right there. And then anything in any of the other standards of learning, when you see the word skills or competencies, that's social emotional learning. And remember why we need it is for the SDGs. And that's so your child doesn't have dissonance. When it is your child, you've taught your child its whole life as an individual, they are their own person. No, you have to think about the good of society, the well-being of society over your own well-being. Which we don't teach our children that's not humanity. Okay, let's be clear, is that's not like the greatest sense of humanity. That's not what that's about. Be individuals, they're not collectives. And so if you don't care, I don't know what to say to people who don't care about this anymore, or who don't bother to want to know more information about it. But I am always here with my email. Email me. Most people know how to find me, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, whatever. I'm not hard to find. If you have questions, if I can help you, I'm working with New Jersey now on obscenity law. Trying to help them figure some stuff out. Because my ADHD and my brain moves very fast, and I want to try to help. I really think that if we worked together as a nation and as a state together, we could do this, because we cannot wait for our legislators. We're going to have to do it ourselves. So peace out. Medical rights matter. Parents' rights matter. All these shirts are coming out for Christmas, by the way. Oh! So take care. Have a good night.